6:02. I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 30th, 2024 Select Board meeting with joint meeting with the Finance Committee. This evening, we have at this table Amy Parsons, Jane Nevin-Smith, Randy Iser, and David Phil of the Select Board, Kurt Watley, the moderator, Amy Biden, Chardu Parmar, Paul Benjamin, and Andy Kopacki of the Finance Committee. That being said, we're going to jump right into this. Item 2.1, special town meeting warrant review, Select Board and Finance Committee. Because Finance Committee is probably to open your meeting.
Okay, so yes, this is Finance Committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And Randy already said who is here. So go right ahead.
Okay. So, what are we doing? Mr. Mason, are you going to
Right
run
down
this
the
for us?
line.
Sure. Yep. Okay, I don't know if you have the computer up for your Word docs or if you have printed out copies, but what you're looking for on board is for Article 1, the general fund omnibus budget is this piece of paper. So if you have paperwork, it looks like this. If you're on board docs, it is listed as Articles 1 and 2 handout. So click on that. On that document, the box that is marked letter A is what we're talking about when it comes to the omnibus operating budget and what needs to be added to that budget so that we can cover the rest of FY25.
What's that?
You look, yeah, there it is.
Mhm.
So it's up on the screen right there. So if you look down the right-hand column, the items in red, those are the expenses that need to be added. We worked with Linda on this very hard, and we also worked with the Finance Committee with some of their recommendations in a couple of the meetings that we had with them. We worked on removing some of the items that had previously been put in there, and we were able to find other places where we can still fund those items, but not put them in this operating budget so as to be able to walk into FY26 with as much free cash as possible. So the number that you see in red, but it's in the yellow on the bottom there, is $268,102. That is the amount of money that you are going to be voting on to go into your budget. And just so you're aware, those funds are all tied somehow in some way to employee salaries. They are either the increases needed for the union, the multiple union negotiations that were going on, or they are tied to unemployment, which is we require another $45,000 in that line simply based upon what we're spending. Be aware that 55,000 of the 268,102 is actually coming from our opioid funds. So those are not directly related to obviously your tax base. That is for the clinician, as well as a program that the Board of Health wants to run with Tapestry out of Northampton at Craigsdorf. But again, that's all that's all opioid money. So essentially what the number that you're going to be voting on, again, is 268,102. And for your information, I don't know if this is something that we want to know, but the Finance Committee did vote at their meeting on Monday night 500 on that amount to move forward with FY20.
Okay.
Is this when we're voting our position on this?
Yeah.
So that said, does the Select Board have any questions regarding any of this?
The only thing that I can add for you is if you scroll down a little bit further on that document. Oh, I'm sorry, the STM24 free cash calculation. That's another one of the tabs that you have in board docs. Looks like this. Jennifer's going to bring it up. With the adjustments that we just recommended and that the Finance Committee voted on, you will be left with $681,684 in free cash moving into FY26. Again, bear in mind that number started much lower The requests for your general operating fund budget were upwards of nearly 350,000 when we first started this. And again, they're down to 268 now, so that 681, 684 was somewhere in the fives. It was around $500,000 before we made these adjustments, so this recommendation allows for that much to go in FY 26.
And maybe the finance, what was our utilization for last year? Do you remember?
750,000
Okay.
at Springtown meeting. In the past, they've used Springtown meeting and Fall Town meeting. So it's been well over $1 million. And it was going down to FY 23, where in the last 5 years, the shortage was 877,000. So within the last 5 years, 877 was the shortage for the whole year, and that was the best year. Since then, the trend is going back up. But just to balance the last spring, it was 750,000 that we used. But we did use, on top of that, we did take 55,000 from reserves, from stabilization. All right. So according to what I believe is next year on FY 26, it will be a tough year. It will. I mean, going in there, can't deny that just from history that there will be a shortfall. How much of a shortfall, don't know, but there will probably be a shortfall. And history shows within the last 5 years where it's been, and it's going to be tight. Very tight.
Make a motion to recommend Article 1 and 2.
David made a motion by David, second by Amy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hold on, was it just for Article 1?
All right, guys, at Article 1 and 2, because this was the sheet for both, right? The handout.
Yeah, technically your table, on that same sheet, your
Close the warrant.
table B is, your enterprise funds, and that is 169, 639, sorry.
Well, I'll make a motion first to close the warrant. How's that?
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
okay, motion to close the warrant by David, second by Amy. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Do we need to revote the recommendation? Or are we good?
Just for cleanness, please.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to recommend Article 1 and 2.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by David, second by Amy for Article 1 and 2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
So it's 4. Okay. All right, Article 3. I'm not sure how much you want to belabor this. We've gone through this twice already, but I'll just for the sake of making sure everybody knows what we're talking about. Article 3 is just your cleanup of prior balances. They are all water reserve adjustments, and the total. Well, there's three balance amounts that are gonna go back to water reserves. They're actually on the warrant for you. And for your information, the finance committee voted 5-0-0 to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second.
motion by Jane, second by David. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Article 4 is your capital articles. This one has gone through multiple adjustments. For those of you on Word docs, if you click on the capital articles revised, and Jennifer will bring it up on the screen. For those of you who don't have it, Finance Committee, you have it from the other night. It's the one with Linda's handwriting on it. Yep. So this one is we're gonna kind of back into this one and make some adjustments. So ultimately, what we have done is we have recommended some alterations to the capital committee. The capital committee will be meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30 to vote on these recommendations. The adjustments are that we will be requesting are as follows. If you notice the dispatch computer server and the DPW highway stormwater management, that previously was set at free cash. The multi-use excavator was a half and half, borrow within the levy and borrow from the water reserves. We have made an adjustment and are going to borrow 3/4 of the excavator out of water reserves and 1/4 of it out of the levy. And we've also moved the library computers and the DPW tree work that was previously on this account for a total of $5,000 for the library computer replacements and the $20,000 for tree work into borrowing from the levy. When we made the adjustment with the excavator, we freed up enough money to be able to move the computer server, the stormwater management, the library computers, and the tree work into borrowing from the levy. That changes your total from $921,500 for your cap for the entire capital to $946,500. I don't see any I don't want to jump the gun and suggest that the capital committee may not like this, but I don't really see any reason why they would have any problem with this. None of this, all of this will still be within the levy and it will not affect taxes. Just for edification, I did some quick math before I came. The multi-use excavator costs, the borrow within the levy would be $77,500 and the borrow from water would be $232,500. Based upon what your water reserves are from Article 2 and from this article, you would be left with $816,766 in your water reserves. Purchasing, using both of these items.
Can that breakdown be shown when we hand this out to the?
This is gonna be, this will be with, this is one of Linda's really cool forms that she has, so we'll make sure that this is.
But I mean, the
with it.
difference in the multi-use excavator, the cost within the levy.
Oh, yeah,
from-
yeah, assuming the capital committee votes on making that
Okay,
adjustment
thank you.
tomorrow. We can put that in. So ultimately, that's what it comes down to. What your, I'm just gonna make a suggestion, what your motion should likely be is move to accept Article 4 based upon the total of $946,500 and based upon potential adjustments made at the capital meeting tomorrow.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Article 4. Motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
What was the finance vote on this last night?
We had, ours was a little bit different because we had voted, all 5 of us voted yes on everything except for the excavator. One committee member decided to vote no on the excavator, voted yes on everything else, but no on the excavator. Okay,
Has the warrant already been posted with the 921,500?
then we are posting tomorrow afternoon.
Okay,
We wanted to wait, Kirk, until the capital committee makes an official decision, so we can change the number.
Yep.
And we did talk about it briefly at the finance committee meeting and just for the sake of transparency, the rule of law for open town meeting is that anybody who does have a problem with a single item, even though we are presenting it as a full budget, can certainly request to remove it. Kirk knows the procedure to have a separate vote for that item and all that. But that was discussed and it is a possibility if folks want to go down that road. 4.2 is part of the capital, but it is a previous capital request. And simply voting to amend an article, a request from 2022 of $310,000 for the Mount Holyoke water tanks. They are requesting to change that, basically a change order from painting it to redesigning and constructing new water tanks. I'm sorry. Did I say no? We're good. Okay.
And that's something that we voted on already about the money for
That's
the
correct.
the new water tanks. So this will just be,
So it's
as you
just
said,
a
redirecting the money
Yes, sir.
to that.
And the finance committee voted 5-0.
Okay.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by Amy. All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. Article 5, prior year bills, again, this is something that comes up every town meeting. A few bills get missed here and there. We did add one to the list, didn't increase it by very much, but your total prior year bills that needs to get voted through is 1,000. Sorry.
Up top.
Yeah, $1,224.63. And the finance committee voted this through 5-0.
Can I ask what Aztec is?
Aztec is our
Our leasing company for our copy machines.
You said one thing got added because on mine I have $1,463.15.
This is the legal back from legal and the number that Amy has is correct. It's the 15,000. Can you read that number again?
$1,463.15.
Legal had the old numbers, Mike. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, I
Thank you, Amy.
apologize.
Yep.
So the invoice that was added is something for, I believe, the fire department, United Ag and Turf, for a total of $238.52. So yes, your total is up from $1,224.63 to a total of $1,463.15.
Motion to recommend Article 5.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Jane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know if that amount changes the finance committe's mind.
No, that's what
They
we
had the correct one.
we had that yesterday.
We had that last night.
We're good. Okay, Article 6, CPA extensions. These are items which were already requested and approved. They are simply requesting a 2-year deadline extension on these 2 items. The finance committee voted 5-0 on these.
And CPA voted 8-0.
Motion to accept. Second.
Okay, motion by Jane, second by Amy. All those in favor? Aye.
I.
Article 7. Have the elementary school playground resurfacing. This is $290,000 from CPA to Hadley Public Schools for the resurfacing of the playground. Finance voted 5-0.
CPA was 8-0.
8-0.
Motion to recommend Article 7.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 8, Hadley Historic Commission Preservation Plan is for $2,000 from CPA to create a comprehensive preservation plan summary. Finance was 5-0, CPA assumes 8-0.
Motion to accept Article 8.
Motion by Amy, second by Jane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 9, Town Hall and Goodwin Memorial Building and Space Needs Analysis. This is $80,000 for a space needs analysis for Town Hall and the Goodwin Memorial. Finance Committee voted 5-0 and CPA 8-0.
Motion to accept Article 9.
Second.
Motion by Amy, second by Jane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Article 10, this is your special revenue revolving fund grant balances. The total for the 7 items, essentially, these are accounts that are in deficit and have been in deficit, some of them for quite a long period of time. They do affect our free cash certification, so Linda felt, I think rightly so, that it was time to remedy this. So the total for Article 10 to bring all these balances back to 0 is $24,015.24. Finance voted 5-0.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 11. This, we are making a recommendation to take as three separate motions. The total for the entire article is $37,000. So 16 point,
It's 11.
it's 11.1, sorry.
I'm sorry, this is from
Change that,
town council
yeah.
and I will fix it.
So
tomorrow, I promise.
11.1 is the form of government study. This is a project which has already begun. And is already being worked on. The funds just were not previously secured for it. So it's kind of important that we have the funds secured.
I have a question, and I apologize, but kind of as the moderator and the voter, form of government study, what is that?
So,
I apologize. for this
Prior to-
news to you guys.
long prior to me coming on board, the town contracted with the Collins Center, who's the same company that did the wage study for the town, to look at the form of government for this town and essentially give recommendations on whether or not there could be adjustments made to certain portions of the town government to make it more efficient, to create a town charter, and things like that. The actual form of government itself can't be changed, meaning open town meeting cannot be changed because the population is not large enough to do that.
So this is not like exploring becoming a city or something?
Nope, no,
Yeah.
this is
This is like the-
simply,
I was gonna say it was more for like having a strong town administrator role type of thing.
I think that's where that's where it started. It started as, talking about whether or not you wanted to talk strong town administrator or a town manager, something along those lines. But the actual form of government, it's kind of a weird name because it does give the indication that the form of government might be changing, but that's not the case. It's looking at whether or not certain positions can be adjusted to make it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, again, like I said, that had already begun, and you really should have money appropriated when you're doing something like that previous, and it was not. So the Finance Committee voted 4-0-1, one abstention for that 11.1 form of government study.
The finance committee, because it was already a signed contract and because it was already begun, felt like we should honor something like that.
But since these are going to be three separate motions at town meeting, we should vote on them separately.
Make a motion to recommend 11.1.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, 11.2 is the solar project study. This is again a study that was presented to the select board, I believe, in either June or July for a solar project on the landfill. And ultimately, this $12,000 is necessary for basically determining whether or not it's going to work. This is what's necessary to kind of move forward with the project. It's kind of the application process. The select board at that point did vote to move forward with the project for that amount. The finance committee voted 1-4-0 on this particular motion.
And may we ask why?
Sure. So the budget is very tight right now going into next year, and we've already explained that. Basically, a lot of it, the only thing that we've spent the free cash on is wages, what we've already negotiated or past bills. So nothing new. The only things that were new have been borrowed. So nothing new out of free cash. So the only type of free cash that we're using right now is the wages and the negotiations or past due bills, contracts. So some of the things, the reason why we just for at least the reason why I voted no, and the rest of them can say their reasons, is I voted no because I felt like this isn't something that's an emergency that we need to do now. There are other questions on pros and cons on each, like there's other sites, have all the other sites, what are the pros and cons on this site? What are the pros and cons on that site? And the other thing is it hasn't gone through all the departments, such as, did it go through planning, conservation? And if one of those departments, say conservation, shoots it down, I don't want to see a $12,000 study on a shelf. So I rather see all those things be gone through and the homework be done on everything before we even spend money on a study, because we've had too many studies that don't go anywhere. So that is, and we don't have the luxury. There is no fat in this budget. We are thin right now. And just think, you take in 12 doesn't seem like a lot. We have a $20 million budget. What is $12,000? Well, if I go to take that out of, I don't know, library, senior center, that's going to hurt. That 12,000 take out of one of those department budgets really hurts. So as it is, it's going to be tight. We don't have any extra room.
Anybody else would like to speak?
I would argue that that's short-sighted, that, yes, it would be hard if you had to take it out of another budget, but you might take it out of free cash. I know you like to keep free cash high, but this would put the town in a position to have a great amount of income in the future. And by stopping or slowing this down at this point, the probability of us being further down the line and not of interest to the utility company for this project is great. And I don't remember the number. I know Michael is here. You can tell me the number of what the long-term proposed gain for the town is.
We'll generate $2 million in excess of $2 million in the town over the life of the project. Absolute minimum, most conservative projections. And if I can also say that,
Michael, could you come up here and speak into a microphone? You can come here or there, either way. Right here.
There's a microphone.
So in addition to generating that income over the life of the project, your concerns about the Conservation Commission. It is a conservative assessment of build out of the available acreage of 50% of the available acreage under the assumption that the Conservation Commission might decide that a portion of it is too close to the river or that it couldn't be developed. And so that's a very minimal proposal. If the Conservation Commission allows it to be more than 50%, which is highly likely, then you're talking about an even more profitable proposition.
Why, just a question, why did we not already go through the conservation on?
Well, because you don't have a plan. And in order to get a plan, you have to know what you're doing. So what this is to develop a plan so that it's hiring somebody to develop a plan to lay it out so that the Concom can evaluate it, so that the utility company can say, it's going to cost this much at this substation. You got to add this number of dollars in order to make it work.
This is for the application fee as well, not just the study.
That is correct. About half of it is for the application fee to Eversource, and about half of it is to a company that will make the plan that the Concom could review.
What's the life of the project?
25 years is generally what solar PV systems last. And another concern that was brought up at a previous meeting was about perforations to landfill, because when the Amherst did theirs, the neighbors got up and started screaming that they didn't want their landfill perforated. This is a ballast system, which means that there will be no punctures to the landfill whatsoever, just as the Amherst system got built. Ultimately, it's a ballast system. So just want to clarify some of those issues. Sorry, I wasn't able to make it to your meeting.
No problem. And can you tell us about any of the other sites that you've reviewed?
Yeah. The initial step in this entire solar development process was to bring in the previous town administrator brought in a solar company to evaluate all of the town sites. And they said very clearly, after analyzing all the senior center, the library, all the different roofs and available town land, that it made absolutely the most sense to put it on the landfill. And the reason is that it allows economies of scale. It's so that you can actually do it efficiently and scale it up. And so it becomes, the cost per unit becomes dramatically lower. You don't have to build a carport on a parking lot. You just ballast these panels onto the landfill. And it's such a large site that it can actually, you would need 50 buildings this size to come close to what's being proposed right now. And the town just doesn't have that resource anywhere else.
And is this project going to be 100% a grant?
Ab-
Or how much is it going to cost the town?
Okay, the way solar is, it would be designed would be that the federal government will provide a minimum of 30% tax credit. Now, because the town doesn't pay any taxes, they're able to, they are now able to get that because of the Inflation Reduction Act was passed about 1.5 years ago. So the town will be eligible to receive that credit. That is the minimum 30%. I have learned since the initial numbers were made that not only does the state provide incentives for solar on landfills, but so too does the federal government. So that 30% could actually go up to 40%. The utility company will pay you for every watt that you generate based on a formula. If the formula is on a landfill, that number of pennies per watt goes up. If it is to the benefit of a municipality, as it is in this case, those numbers go up. And that is why putting it on a landfill makes so much sense, is that you have all these other secondary and tertiary incentives provided by the state and the federal government, because that's where they want to see these go, because they don't want to cutting down forests. They don't want to put them on farmland. We want to put them on brownfields first.
The $2 million over 25 years works out to 80,000 a year. What's the town committed to?
Yeah, it's a large initial expenditure from which the town would need to borrow substantially to make this happen. And you'd have to, I'm happy to present the financials on this. I've done that with a number of committee people as requested. But essentially, that's a net $80,000 per year after insurance is paid, after maintenance and mowing and fence. After all the expenses reserved for replacements are paid, that is the net to the town after they've serviced their debt on a bond. That's what they're going to make, basically. That's what we would make as a town.
So it's 80,000 after the debt service.
Absolutely.
Which is the cost of it.
That was his calculation. The number that I have is that it's over 2 million over the 25 years.
2 million after the cost of it.
Absolutely. It pays for everything. And that is a bare bones conservative estimate. If the Conservation Commission says it could be bigger, if the federal government incentive for landfill, which we've not calculated, comes through, we're talking substantially more income. It is a very profitable site.
The other thing I want to add to that, I was in support of this article, that this also would, installing this infrastructure in there allows us to, in the future, possibly do battery storage and actually make more, the income stream could be actually more, because we're able to store that energy and sell it back to the utility at a higher rate than what we're generating at. So we're actually going to be possibly making more money if we're able to utilize the solar and battery storage at the same time. And for the most part, it's just like the farms that we have here that feed us and take care of us, and we have, we buy milk and ice cream. We should be self-sufficient in certain ways, and this gives us self-sufficiency also.
I had a couple questions myself, but certainly, Amy's points about free cash were a big driver for concern. And you all answered the revenue versus gross question, but I mean, typically, don't you sell it to the utility at wholesale and buy it at retail when you're generating, because you're not, you're just putting it back on the grid and they have a meter on there. It's not like you're routing it to the town. So you're selling it to the utility at the wholesale rate.
We can call it retail or wholesale, whatever we want to call it. Forgive me, I don't know what the correct terminology here is. the bottom line is that the amount that the utility will pay the town is increased over and above what they would normally pay by this, what they call an adder for this, for the fact that it's on a landfill, by another adder for the fact that it is a municipality to the benefit of municipality. So there are all these increases that are factored into these numbers, and I apologize that I did try to make it to the finance committee meeting. I couldn't get a link. But I'm happy to review these numbers with you to show you that all these costs are the income stream is what it is. It's based on a variety of solar experts that have provided the information.
You can understand why the finance committee would want to see the kind of numbers. This is where we ultimately.
Well, nobody asked, and it was I tried very hard to come to the meeting, and it didn't happen.
So with two more quick questions, who would actually own the equipment?
Well, as it is currently, I mean, I'm talking as a resident right now. I would like the town to own it because you're gonna make the money, okay? There are power purchase arrangements that are done where installers come in and they develop a system and then you don't own it and they give you a little bit of cheap electricity.
Yeah.
And that's done. I don't think that's a great idea. I think the town should be in the driver's seat and make this money. If there are people who are scared of that, I can understand that. Towns don't run businesses well. We're not business people, but this is a very simple business. You mow the lawn and the computers keep track of everything. If anybody here have solar? I mean, what do you guys do? Not much.
Cash the check.
Cash the check.
Cast a check and not pay the bill.
Right.
And wait for those inverters to hope they last.
Yeah.
And I guess one more question I would have, is probably more for the town, would be concerns about viewscape. When you're walking down the river, you've got that nice corridor on the dike, you don't really see much except for the mountain that is Mount landfill over there. But that would be one consideration if you're going to now mount ballast mounted on top of that mound with solar panels, 7 acres worth. What's that going to look like for that view shed? I mean, there was concerns years ago when at Pomeroy and South Maple, when they were talking about putting up 33 acres of it there. And the town was able to get Kestrel Trust to help step in and avoid that. But that would be one other concern I would have, would be the quality of the viewscape down that lane of the river.
I've got a little bit of solar experience, enough to be dangerous, Michael, so I apologize. There are some communities where the utilities will not buy the power back. If this has a 25-year life to it, is the utility committed to 25 years of buying it from us?
This is all obligated.
Okay.
It's all contracted.
But the application fee is where the utility says, yes, we will, or no, we won't. If they say, no, we won't.
And that application process is very drawn out. That's why you have to do it very early on. We've done it for our hotel. We have completely solar on our roof and it's saved us 40% of our electricity costs significantly.
And the fact that this would be income, not expense, and the town is always looking for money, as you said, things are gonna be tight, and yes, in 26, and we're probably, by the time this is done, we're talking 30, but it's still gonna be tight, the town is always gonna be tight because of inflation, so if we have a source, it's like a new building, it's another income stream for the town.
I'm not denying that solar wouldn't bring us down the road money, and solar is probably a good project. There's just, is it something that needs to be done right now? And then the question being is, so that's the first phase, is the 12 for the study. The next phase, I know down the road, we will eventually get income coming in, but it's going to be a big project. You said we'll probably need to borrow for it. Do you have any idea on what that number will be, or an estimate of a number that the town will have to borrow to get this project started?
Absolutely. It's in the financials and it's I can't remember. It's a total of a $5 or $6 million project that you will need to borrow.
Yeah, so that is a big thing, and we need to think about that, because at the same time that's coming in, you're going to be asking $5-6 million to borrow, you're also asking for $30 million to borrow for a DPW building at the same time. It's, you know.
Yeah,
it's
I
big
also,
stuff.
I had another question. I think kind of what Andy was getting at is, so we build this. And then we sell the electricity back. Meanwhile, the municipal buildings and everyone in town is still paying a regular rate. So none of what we're building over there is going to any of our municipal buildings. It's just being 100% sold back.
We can buy our own, we can have a power purchasing agreement if we set it up, I believe.
The town buildings also are already all on a community electrical aggregation program. So we already pay a reduced rate, just separate from that solar, we already have a reduced rate that we pay.
So I think what Amy's getting at, and I think people need to understand this, you
Mhm.
asked if any of us had solar. So I do. And whatever I generate comes off my bill. It's not like I'm selling and buying back. I don't think, I don't know 100% how it works. But what you're saying is that this solar electricity that we generated will 100% be sold. And then it will not feed any of the town buildings, correct?
Well, the way that, the way
Your
that solar
electricity
works,
doesn't feed your
Yeah.
house either, okay? Your panel generates electricity, boom, it goes on the grid,
Okay.
okay? And then they keep track of how much that was that you put on the grid, and that gets deducted from your bill. Just like it would be for the town. The town is gonna, because there's no way for you to hold on to that electricity. Okay, so that same thing with the panels on the roof, on the dump. Boom, it's all gonna go onto the grid. It's a dollar figure is gonna be created on it, and that money's gonna come back to the town basically off their bill.
Right, and that money theoretically would be used to pay the town's electric bills.
Yes,
Okay, and the net $2 million you're talking about over 25 years, is that in addition to generating enough to pay the town's electric
Yes.
bills? Yes, okay, that's hugely important to know. Thank you.
So you're saying it would cover all the electric bills and generate $80,000?
yes.
And that's at the current size, not if it's larger.
If it's larger than that 80,000, then that $2 million over 25 years grows.
You mentioned
And all of
tax
your numbers
credits.
were very conservative.
Like ridiculously conservative.
Right.
You mentioned a tax credit, since we don't pay taxes, but there's some way the town gets,
So,
could you expand on
so
that?
what happens, it's happening here with the senior center.
Okay.
They used to give tax credits, and that's why you had to work with an outside agent contractor, because the town couldn't use it. With the COVID and all of the money that started flying around, they decided that they would write checks to municipalities. So the tax credit comes back in a dollar check as soon as you're online.
It's within a year. So you will have to borrow that money for that year.
Question about end of life cycle. So 25 years from now, I know, when you have solar on your house, if it outlives its lifespan, obviously you keep generating whatever you can generate until the panels completely die or the inverters die. Is that sort of the plan for this, to let it go as long as it's feasible?
Absolutely.
And then what happens with it at the end? We decide, okay, it's time to pull it or get rid of it or replace it. Is any of those costs taken into account as far as disposal or?
I think we did put in a number for disposal, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We can look at that.
Are you going to have for town meeting, a Excel
Yeah.
sheet with all the numbers that have been discussed here? Because
Yeah.
numbers are a big deal, especially when you're talking to the finance committee. You know, all these numbers, it sounds like it's better when it's on paper. Thanks.
Are you guys gonna revote? Can you guys revote?
That's what I was just asking if we can.
I don't think we can revote today, but
We had to
Why
put
not,
it
you're
on the agenda.
posted,
don't we have?
you are posted, this is a finance committee meeting.
This is a
Oh,
meeting.
but it's not on our agenda. is it?
Yes, it is.
Well,
The
actually, we
agenda
can
says
revote.
that the finance committee and select board are going to address the town meeting warrant and all financial articles. So y'all absolutely made voting.
Yes, I'll make a motion.
I guess is everybody comfortable voting or do we want to look at the numbers?
Well, Peter's not here.
Peter's not here also.
Molly.
So-
Here, so.
No, but we voted with Peter. So Peter's vote is counted. So I told him he knew he wasn't coming, but we said we were not voting.
I guess the other option would be, on the night of town meeting, we have our pre-meeting.
Well, they call us up
Okay,
and say, why did you, if on town meeting, there's ever anything that's, because our votes show, and they would like to know why, if you voted no, why did you vote no?
And the other thing that you can do is if you voted no and you want to vote yes, you can stand up in town meeting and said, I voted no originally. I've heard additional information. I feel like I want to change my vote. So you can get it out to the public in that way.
I did have one last question.
So she says.
Hey, I rarely talk much during the meeting. Anywhere else, you can't shut me up. So from the time, let's say that we vote yes on all of this and you do the study, you go to the Concom. It's in a year, right? You're looking at like, how long does it take from everything's a go to like it's completed?
I understand these can take multiple years and I think that's, we're just trying to get things started.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm thinking about DPW building coming, any other large projects that we have, so. I think anyone that's gonna be sitting at town meeting is gonna say, okay, great, so now we're gonna do this. There's a study, we get what we need. Then when is that money coming out of the budget?
So isn't the estimate for the electric company like 2 years? Are they really?
In terms of how long it would take,
Yeah,
I would say it's going to take at least 2 or 3 years for this thing to.
Yeah,
for the electric company.
Is that what your experience was?
yeah, I think
Get in line.
when to get to that, you can install it and you can start generating, but to get paid. And I don't know if it's retroactive, but it takes at least, I think we just got our quasi agreement done earlier this year, and that we opened in 19, so that was COVID, a couple of years there, but it's probably a good 3 years for that.
and this one, we wouldn't want to start installing any because we got to get three-phase power down there. There's a lot of other steps that have to fall in place for this one, so.
And one of the things the plan would do is give us an absolute number on what it is to get the power down there and whether you have to take it out Cemetery Road or whether you can cut across the field or not. All kinds of questions still up. And I've seen the numbers and Michael has always taken the longest possible route to get the power in and been conservative in his costs, so.
And this plan, you can hold on to it, meaning it's gonna be valuable. And it's something that we can at least, even if we're not ready for it in the next 2 or 3 years. It's still not gonna go to waste in the sense that you're gonna have a site plan, you're gonna have a plan for the electric company, you're gonna have a lot of things lined up so that when we are ready to go, we'll have it. So.
This will have to go to not only town meeting, but not this 12, but
Oh,
to
yeah.
build it, it'll have to go to a ballot.
Okay. No,
This is just for the application and the study.
Michael, if I understand it though, at the end of the first year is gonna be the tight year. That's where we're paying down. We're paying against whatever we borrow, it's $5 million. Before we start to see those checks go in that offset it to the problem.
No, the one check that I was talking about for that first year was the IRS tax credit.
Okay,
Okay, the payments
okay.
are monthly, so.
So we get money every month. then. And that would cover the service, the debt. So, I mean, it's a little different than building a building where our income is in fact the service that we get from that building, the use of this place, the use of the DPW. Here you're saying we're actually gonna have money coming back in against the debt. So really it's a no cost to some degree. You borrow the money, but you're getting money back to cover.
I think this is a winning investment, in my opinion.
All right. Well, I would change my vote. Heard all these things. Wish I'd heard them before. Don't think it would have changed last night, but if we can't re-vote it, I'll speak at the town meeting.
I would just say for town meeting explanation and when we talk about the IRS tax credit, if we can clarify that we're gonna get an actual check for that, because when people hear tax credit, they're like, town doesn't pay taxes, we pay town taxes, you know, so I think a lot of people say, well, we're not getting anything back. That way, so they understand there's money coming out.
You should call it a refund.
Yeah.
Don't call it a credit.
I think,
Exactly.
yeah.
No, seriously, call it a
A
refund.
rebate or something.
Yeah, or 1.5, what does it come out to? 1.5 million.
Right,
So just
I'm sorry.
explain it so that we're receiving a 1.5 refund or
Thank-
rebate.
That's a good
which
point.
would be the equivalent to a private citizen's tax refund or tax
Correct.
credit,
correct.
so that people can understand.
And that's, and I know from the state side, next year, they're gonna be coming out with more programs, so we might receive even more than that.
Okay, we beat this to death enough.
Accept.
Did you make a motion, Jay?
I made a motion. to
Second.
accept.
All right, motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And any opposed?
And 400.
Yeah.
Somebody was pretty quiet down there.
Well,
I think somebody, the one who doesn't talk much was pretty quiet.
I was gonna say, I should
Is that technically an extension? I don't even know what to put down. but-
Was that 400?
Yes.
yeah,
That's what I'm told.
yep, it's fine.
All right. 11.3 is your town administrator search firm cost. Again, as you know, we've been looking for a firm to do the town administrator search. The 15,000 in there is essentially a placeholder. We don't know what that number is going to be at, but some likelihood would be, there's a high likelihood that it would be less than that. We just simply haven't selected the company yet. The deadline hasn't passed. That vote for finance committee was 2-3-0.
So on the finance committee, a lot of the, would be the same reasoning. Would be what I spoke about before, is if it's not an emergency, we don't absolutely need it. Things have been brought up, like we've had known this since August, but we haven't done anything since August, things like, have all the insiders, anybody that inside wanted, open it up, have interviews done. Have we gone out and put any ads out or anything done ahead of time for free? So if we could save 15,000, once again, that's what we are looking for, because 15,000 isn't a lot on the whole budget, but it is a lot per department. So,
We posted internally.
okay, and did we do interviews and all that internally?
The board decided that it made the most sense to get it out there to a larger population. And the person who applied didn't want to go through that process with everybody else. So again, we just decided that it made the most sense to get as many people before us to interview as possible. So we
So once again, it was just a thing, it wasn't against anything
Yeah.
negative. It was to say, can you
Yeah.
try to save some money? If you can get it out there and see who we have. Do we have a committee formed yet, a search committee?
we are, what's the process? Where are we at with that?
So if you hire one of the firms, the part of the process for the firms is to form a search committee, but that doesn't usually happen until the very end, once they have applicants, they've done background checks out and all that.
Yes, and I think if you ask Mr. Mason if this was an emergency situation or not, he may say it is.
You'll see when it's an emergency, when I tip over in my chair.
So,
Until that, I'm okay.
I think they're stalling because they like you.
no, this-
I thought you voted no too. I'll take it as a compliment.
There you go.
the select board decided not to do the local search because we know the options and what a better pool of candidates we were.
You don't think we have anyone local that would qualify?
They can certainly apply, but I think what that would do is to delay us moving forward. Because what if we got candidates who were okay, but not really good? And we felt we had to hire one because we'd already done this, we'd spent time, and we're 3 months down the road from now. And Mike is starting with his chairs tilting, and we have to be careful.
Well, we have had candidates locally that since those last person, the other two candidates that we had were all local.
So
And we've done really well in our past. I was just surprised that we have to look for people outside the area.
well, that's what the select board, having listened to people and talked amongst ourselves, and we decided this is the better choice.
So. I will say, as we've been kind of waiting for this to come to fruition for using the search committee or the outside search agency. In retrospect, I do kind of wish we had put it out there and, you know, MMA or wherever and just see what we got. For a return on those advertising. Or advertisements, just to see, because maybe we could have found somebody hopefully and saved the $15,000, and now we're already a month into this almost. And you know, we really could have been close to having someone on board at this point, and now we have to hire these guys. They're gonna take, what do you say, 90 days, I think is kind of the minimum, 60, 90 days, something like that, right? More than that, okay, so like 4 months, something, yeah. So I don't know, it's
I will say the thing that I did find attractive about this though is like the guarantee. Like one, you're guaranteed someone to be here, and two, you're guaranteed someone after a year. So like if whoever we choose leaves within the first year, then for free, they're gonna go, I mean, not for free, but like we already paid for their service. So if they leave within the first year, then they're gonna go find another person. So that's kind of like an assurance type of thing that I appreciated. Cause there's no guarantee when you hire somebody that they're gonna stay.
And these firms, this is all they do, so they know what the requirements are for the job, and I think they would be able to help us tremendously in choosing the right candidate.
And they also have a history of working with people who might not apply for the job, but who they might contact and say, this is a job. This is the job. It's just like, no one would do it.
I voted yes.
You're not interested, right?
No,
I already put them up for it.
no, I know, I agree. I think that my for voting yes is that as much as we are a small town, having businesses on Route 9 and seeing all the development that is on Route 9, we need to have somebody that's gonna understand not only what happens in the residential side, but the business community. And I don't feel that the previous, in my opinion and my experience, the previous administrators kind of reached out to some of the business people that like we should have. So.
If we hired one of the companies that are responding to the RFP or that did respond to the RFP, let's say this gets passed at town meeting, what are we looking at? How soon are we looking at a start date for their process?
Almost immediate.
Almost immediate. Yeah. So really, we're looking at like about 2 weeks out or so.
We just didn't wanna, based on procurement law, we didn't wanna sign a contract with anyone until the money was secure. So,
Right.
The RFQ actually says contract to be executed on or about 11/14, which is the date of town meeting. So once it's approved, we can sign a contract with whoever wins the bid.
I feel like I'm asking too many questions.
No.
Moderator, why wasn't this posted on MMA? It goes to all the right people. Why didn't we go down that route?
What do you mean? Oh, you
Go
mean
to the Massachusetts Municipal Association, yeah.
opening?
Okay, why didn't we post it there?
Can't answer that question. The job. Oh, go ahead.
Well, just to remind everybody, our HR director, we did not have an HR director until last week. She's been here exactly 1 week, and having an HR director who's been here for 1 week, even though she is amazing and probably could do a great job. She's only been here for 1 week and we're hiring her to be the chief executive officer for the town of Hadley. So it felt like maybe that might have been a little much to throw at somebody in their first week of work. She doesn't really have a lot of knowledge about the town. She's still learning and, you know, once she has her feet underneath her, it's gonna be amazing. But for right now, you know, she's 5 days in.
Town administrators pretty much do all the same job in different towns, don't they?
Town administrators do whatever, they tailor their jobs a little bit. Some do HR, some do budgets. Some just manage the town and have deputies that do everything else. I mean, it's really. a
It's very
broad-
specialized.
Yeah, and it's a broad spectrum of what a town administrator does in any specific town.
I think the difficult spot we're in here now is, let's just say this doesn't pass town meeting and we say, okay, you know what? We're gonna go out there, we're gonna post our listing, we're gonna see what we get, and we get nothing. Then you're sitting here until fall. When we can come up with the money to again hire a search firm, so.
I mean, I think technically it could be done at, you know, annual town meeting, could be written into the FY 26 budget.
Right. Oh, I get spring, yeah.
We could do it that way.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's fixable.
Right.
You know what I mean? There are remedies to it. So that's kind of one of the cool things about open town meetings, that regardless, everyone here has shared their opinions once you vote, and then the town gets to decide. And if there is a delay, if it does get voted down, we'll either find a new direction, or we'll write it into FY 26, and then the same process will happen, and it'll just be a delay. Right.
I think one of the things that the firm does that I believe they would do much better than the combined select board is to define and recognize what the need of this town is for a town administrator, as you said, someone who's really available to understand the business part of the town, and somebody who understands the farming part of the town, and somebody, we're not your standard town.
So that would be a great for someone, especially if they were local, they might understand that because they were. I'm just saying, because they're not from Boston, they would not from the east, they would know what we're like out in Western Mass.
These firms are less focused on Eastern Mass for their hiring. That we already eliminated the firms from the Boston area.
Yeah, one of the bullet points for the RFQ was that they needed Western Mass, significant Western Mass experience and specific to the Pioneer Belt. So we can't eliminate bidders who have less experience in our area.
Anybody else have any questions?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by Amy. All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye. Gradually.
Begrudgingly.
Okay.
No category for that.
Yeah.
Article 12, this is your employee compensation time fund. You have 4 long-term employees retiring this year. The total of this number has actually changed. It's gone up from 50,000 to 60,000 since the first time we showed you the warrant, just because of the calculations that we've done. We need approximately 68,000 to cover all of the compensation that we have to pay out for those retirements, and we have 10,000 in the account right now. So this was voted by the finance committee at 5-0-0.
Motion to accept Article 12.
second.
Motion by Amy, second by Jane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Where's the money coming from, finance?
For cash.
Okay.
Okay, Article 13, this is your ambulance transfer of special revenue. This is to see if the town will vote to appropriate 350,000 from your stabilization fund for the ambulance services budget to allow them to cover the costs of the rest of FY 25. This will be a loan and will be paid back as the ambulance fund grows and they continue to make receipts, and then eventually when they go to an ALS service, they'll pay this back to your stabilization fund. The finance committee voted at 5-0-0.
Motion to accept Article 13.
Second.
Motion by Amy, second by Jane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just one question. I already voted yes, but the question.
Yeah, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear your begrudging.
No, I said yes. The 350, that's for 1 year of continuing operations, correct?
That's for this year. The rest of that's gonna get them to June 30th, 2025.
All right, so unless their revenue bumps up drastically come spring, they're gonna be looking for another chunk of money to continue operating.
That is yet to be, yeah, well, I mean, the answer is yes, and how it comes to be has yet to be decided. I mean, don't know if we're gonna write it into the budget or how we're gonna approach it, but we are gonna work closely with select board and the finance committee to figure out how we're gonna make that happen.
And
The fire chief has met with the chair of finance as well as the chair of your board to discuss future of the ambulance services, what his projection is, what his plan is, and the finance committee has actually requested kind of more information from him as far as a plan moving forward to ensure that this can be attained.
I'm just gonna say I'd like to meet with, I'm not sure if the ambulance committee is working on this portion of things or if they just focus on action. But if you guys work on this.
We do, yeah, and so we have but the first meeting we have set up is the 7th of November, but that's with action first. So we have to get a good grasp on what the last 3 years of action receipts are. So that way we're gonna, and Michael is looking to build, he already has some of the numbers, but now he needs to show it to us and to you and to the town. Pretty much that he was going for a safer grant at one point, and unfortunately that didn't go through. So now we have to look at 3 new paramedics and when to move this to the next step. So it's a lot on timing. So he's going to do best case scenario, worst case scenario. And we're going to see how when we can flip that switch, because it's not until we go ALS will we really get those receipts. There is a 3-month lag on everything. So that's tough. But once we go ALS, we have to get those other paramedics. And so that's more people. How are we going to fund this? There's a lot of questions.
But at some point, in theory, it pays for itself and potentially makes the town some money.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't necessarily say we're going to be making a lot of money, but hopefully it's going to be in a good account that it'll be able to pay for its own ambulance when a new ambulance needs to come around, that it'll be able to pay back the money, the startup money that it borrowed out of the stabilization. But then again, that's why another reason why we have to look at ambulance receipts, because a lot of their history and some of it has been going down where we're not this year not getting 100% refund, or some years we have. So some of that's been going down. So why is that going down? Is it lack of are we not getting paid what there's a lot of questions. Are they billing too much and the insurance companies are paying us that amount needed? Or is it just non-payment because people are uninsured that they're bringing, or maybe people are denying to take the ride at all? We don't know, but they have all that information from Action. So we're going to study that.
I'd just like to point out that we used to pay Amherst $350,000 a year to have them do our ambulance service. So this is what we would have paid. We're already getting money back, which we didn't get on the other side.
No, we used to pay, Amherst, definitely. So this was a great thing. When we switched to Action, it was
I
fabulous.
think we need to tell that to the townspeople.
And
That this is a piece of money, but relative to what we have, it's an operating cost.
in terms of, I think, what Mike was saying, in terms of, I think his estimated revenue that Action is doing, I think it's close to 700,000. That's what he estimated.
It's actually much over I think it was 760,000 was their amount before they would start paying us back. So they actually are over $1 million.
So they're over $1 million, and then our ambulance so far, not even a full year, is up to almost 80,000, something like that, in terms of.
48,000 is what we have in the account.
No, but the receipts, we
Receipt.
still haven't received.
Oh, yes, because we haven't received.
Yeah.
We have
yeah.
receipts out there.
Accrued, I should say accrued and realized is almost 80,000 already. And Mike has some great ideas on other revenue streams with the ambulance service that he mentioned that I've started looking into because Ludlow does it. And I know somebody in Ludlow and he says it's an ambulance subscription program, essentially that people pay it, or the households pay it. And it helps if the insurance company doesn't cover the entire ride, I guess, that it would be forgiven by the town. And he's saying that that money, that fund is full of money and pays basically for their ambulances every year.
So that kind of fund, is a question. So if my family doesn't choose to have the family plan with the ambulance and we need an ambulance, what happens?
Insurance,
My insurance would cover it, but they would still come.
oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's the thing that would scare people off.
You pay the balance.
You pay the
So
balance.
the subscription, because I work with somebody who has them in a different town and they have as Shardul was saying, insurance pays what they pay and anything that would have been owed from the patient would be is taken care of by the subscription fee. The ambulance still comes one way or another.
So if you have a deductible, for instance, the ambulance would pick that up.
Right. Or if the insurance company covered the first 2,500 and it was a $3,500 bill, you'd be looking at paying 1,000 versus the 250 per household or whatever the number is.
And he said out of 5,500 households in Ludlow, 4,500 subscribe to it already. So,
Serious.
huh?
That's impressive.
Yeah, no, it's a nominal amount. It's only like $60 a year, $70 a year. And it seems like it's a no-brainer.
Really. Never be a false economy.
That's one thing we can count on. Our fire chief is thinking out of the box. He definitely comes up with other avenues for income. He's always looking for that.
Right, shall we move on to Article 14?
There's one little last piece of information I can add as far as your special revenue account that Amy was just talking about. Linda, who's on top of this, really well, sent an email this morning at 10:45 that said that the October ambulance receipts are the highest of any month at $13,425. So your special revenue account now has a total of $50,366.79.
That was for the town ambulance, right?
Yes, yeah, okay, so that's what's in your account that you can, use.
Sounds good. Okay, great. Article 14,
Article 14 is your prudent investor rule. This is simply to allow your town treasurer to invest trust funds more prudently based upon your financial advisor's recommendation, whether to invest conservatively or more risky investments. Essentially, it's to follow a prudent investor rule where she would, whoever your treasurer is moving forward, would work with your financial advisor to invest trust funds to the greater benefit of the town.
And there's no boycotts in there, right?
I'm aware of. Okay.
Motion to accept Article 14.
Second.
Finance committee voted 5-0. FYI.
thanks. Motion by Amy, second by David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I believe this is where finance committee stopped voting. I don't know if you want to stay, continue, we only have articles left to go that the select board has to vote on, but if you like.
Well, I'll just, for whoever wants to leave, I'll close the finance committee. So I have a, go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
The finance committee. Thank you. It was in my papers on.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. So,
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
I think it's a really good meeting.
Okay, good discussion.
Okay, for the select board, Article 15 is your day or place acceptance. As I mentioned, I think the first two times we went through this, Jane and Scott. Jane and Scott went out and did the walkthrough of this road. Scott's recommendation is that it's, while it is old and has some issues with it, it's no worse for wear than other roads that we have accepted. That's public ways. So that's that. There's no finance committee building.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor? Aye.
Right. Next one is your townwide speed limit. Again, as I mentioned last time, I'm gonna have Mitch explain this because Mitch gets most of the requests for speed limit signs in a lot of our neighborhoods. And this is simply to adopt a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit in all thickly settled or business districts. It will only require us to post 4 or 5 speed limit signs at town borders, like what you see on Route 47 when you're heading into Sunderland, and it will be enforceable as a posted speed limit.
Chief,
Motion to accept.
may I ask a question, sir?
Certainly.
I'm on Huntington Road. I've got that wonderful flashing speed limit sign right at Holy Rosary Cemetery. I'm right across the street. They aren't observed now. So what's the 25 gonna do to change things? Because no one observes the 35.
Well, I mean, a lot of that is enforcement, and you know, we can do the best that we can with getting.
I'm not poking fun at the cops. I'm just people.
I know, it's based, this is based upon requests from residents of wanting 25-mile-an-hour speed limit zones in their neighborhoods.
And didn't you say, Mike, that with this sign, these signs posted, nobody can say, but there's no
Yes.
sign.
100%, yes, this makes it legally enforceable as a posted zone. So where there is no speed limit sign, if someone's flying through the neighborhood of 40, it is, the citation could be written as a 25-mile-per-hour posted speed limit zone.
Just curiosity, how close to a stop for an infraction does a sign have to be to where the stop is? Like if it's a mile down the road and you're stopped, is that still posted for that area?
You have to be within the zone. Normally, if you look at the way speed limit signs are posted, you'll see one going in one direction. If you look quickly to the other side of the road, there's generally one going in the other direction. That's where the speed limit's adjusted.
Okay, you wanna,
I move to accept.
Second.
motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor? Aye.
All right, Article 17. This is your bylaw amendment, and I know that Bill and the Article 17 and Article 18, Jennifer, is that correct?
Or from the bylaw committee, yes.
From the bylaw, so I don't know if Jim or Bill want to explain this, but I mean, I can very quickly go over it. Essentially, it's Bill. Yeah, go for it.
Mayor, are there any changes from when we went over it last week?
Not this, no.
What is this?
Oh, actually, wait, you know.
This is the rubbish and street. This is basically, about if people, when they mow their lawn, stuff like that. I mean, it's impossible to mow your lawn and not get some grass on the street. That's not the point. But there's some people that purposely, when they mow their lawn, they blow the grass in the street, and when you drive by them, you can't tell, sometimes I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but you can't tell where the grass stops and where the pavement starts. And it becomes a hazard for basically bicycles and motorcycles, especially if the grass is wet. It becomes slippery. It doesn't look good. It could be a hazard for vehicles, or especially bicycles and stuff like that, or motorcycles driving through those kind of areas.
Yeah. If there's no changes and updates, I'm good with voting on this. Because we still have the town meeting form anyway coming up.
Right.
So, motion to accept Article 17.
Second.
Motion by Amy, second by David. All those in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Article 18.
Article 18 is your constable bylaw.
Yep, this, right now constables, people that have been in town for many, older generation like me, once upon a time, we had 6 constable and they were all elected. And then when they went to a regular police force, we cut the constables down to 2 elected and the rest are appointed. And we've always had good constables, so there's nothing against any constables that have ever been on the force or whoever's on the force today. We're simply looking forward to avoid a problem. A constable is an elected official. By state law, elected officials can only be removed by the electorate. In other words, either the selectman or the police chief can remove them. a constable under state law has all the duties and responsibility of a full-time policeman with all training, but a constable doesn't require any training. And we're trying to avoid down the road possibly you got a not so good policeman. Well, that could happen. And nobody but the electorate can remove them. And to do that is not a 1 or 2 week process. It is get a petition, get an election, and so on and so forth. And so this way, if they're appointed, and most of the constables today aren't looking to be gun carrying people, but they are allowed to do that. Basically, our constables today, they go to elections, they serve papers, stuff like that. And that's basically all that we want to do is go from elected to appointed for those reasons.
Motion to recommend.
Second,
Motion by David, second by Jane. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. So,
What was it?
Yeah.
There's silence down there.
yeah.
What? No, I said I.
Should brought my hearing aids.
Yeah.
This is my first go round on this. I don't know if you vote on zoning. The zoning
Nope.
bylaws.
Planning board
Not
does.
necessarily, it's a recommendation for the planning board.
Yeah.
I think, and that's your warrant.
The next
I
three are planning board.
forgot.
What's,
And you'll do those, form.
Those would be divisions and motions.
yeah. So we're done with going through the warrant.
I'm the prior year person. I always am.
So now we have to do the division of motions to satisfy Jennifer
So
To satisfy me also.
and satisfy the moderator.
Yes.
he's bigger than me, don't worry. So for Article 1, I have right now, Mike as the town administrator and Amy Feigen as the finance chair. And then a repeat of that on Article 2. And then after that, it's up to y'all, how you want to divide, although Amy did just call dibs on Article 5 prior year.
Say Article 3 as well for the chief and Amy. It's a finance thing of cleanup,
Okay.
Want you to enjoy your time in the spotlight while you can.
Who typically does capital?
When I was at the finance committee, there was a kind of a consensus that I tried to explain, the fairly lengthy process that all of these requests go through for your capital, so I can take this.
Okay.
And then the department heads can take specific requests for questions from the public, but I just feel like,
or we
I
could
think
give
for
it to
trans-
Nicole.
Now,
well, I mean, yeah, you certainly can. I mean, Molly and I could do it together, but,
that might,
essentially, it was just a
got it.
matter of trying to
Yours.
explain it to folks.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
Molly's not here. She can't say no.
okay, Article 5, Amy's got,
Yeah.
And then 6, 7, 8, 9 are CPA,
okay,
and that takes you to Article 10, special review revolving fund grant balances.
Ooh, I'll take this one. That's okay with everybody.
you got it.
Yeah, go for it.
And then for Article 11, do you want to break them out? Does one person want to do all of 11, or would someone like to do 11.1? How would you like to do that?
We should be, we gotta do them individually. It doesn't matter if every one person does them all, but we certainly have to do them individually. That one sounds like a good one for Molly.
Hmm.
Okay.
All of Article 11?
Yeah. I don't teach it for that.
No vacations now, right?
Yes, teacher not to have fun.
And then Article 12 is your employee compensated time fund.
I'll do that one.
Ambulance fund is Article 13.
That's your,
That's it.
Is Chief Spango gonna do that, or is that a select? board?
I think he would be able to participate, but I think the select board member should be the one that leads it.
I'll take it.
Amy could help with that if you want as well, chair, it's.
I was gonna say
Sure.
Molly's also on the ambulance committee.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Let her have that too.
Okay, Article 14 is to adopt a prudent investor rule.
I can do that.
Adair Place is Article 15.
I walked it, I can go. Those are easy ones, relatively speaking.
Article 16, townwide speed limit.
I'll take that.
That's it.
And the bylaw committee, I think there's a select board member on the bylaw committee, that might be an easy,
That's me, but
oh, okay.
I think it'd be better to have Jim or
Probably doesn't
Bill.
want to.
yeah. Think, you okay doing that, Jim?
Yes,
Okay.
so I think I got the next 4 or 5 if I'm right.
Yeah.
You got a couple hours up there.
You can stick Bill with a couple of them.
I'll sit and share next to you.
That
it?
is,
My phone's gonna be on silent again this time.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
that is your division of motions. I will have that prepped for y'all that night and, the information for the public forum. Thank you.
Can I ask you one favor? It's pretty straightforward. I'm getting used to things, but just to make sure I don't stumble and bumble. The percentage of votes, like, simple majority.
You'll have that
You
all.
know that?
It's actually done.
You rock.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you done there, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, I'm done. I'll shut
Okay,
up.
moving right along, so
It's not agenda.
consent agenda, item 3.1. On the consent agenda this evening, we have minutes from October 16th, 2024. And the award of emergency medical dispatch, IFB priority dispatch, and I have no idea
Yeah,
what
what
that
is that?
is. So,
That's, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
That is the company that will be handling our, all of our training and the computer program to emergency medical dispatch for our ambulance service. All of our dispatchers need to have training. The simplest way to put it is CPR over the phone. That will train our dispatchers on how to walk people through emergency care. While our ambulance and officers and firefighters are responding.
thank you.
Motion to.
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by David. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 4.1, public comments. Is there anybody here amongst us or on Zoom that would like to make a public comment? Michael, Mr. Doctor, come on up.
Is Mike okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak for a moment to the proposed zoning overlay district for senior housing, which I know is coming before the town meeting shortly. As a citizen of Hadley, it's probably a good idea, this type of housing. But I think the town should, members of the public in Hadley should recognize that changing the zoning here would be a significant gift to the developer. A very valuable gift. The current land that is available right now would support, assuming it had no wetlands on it, which it does, but assuming that it had no wetlands, could support 22 units of housing. If the town generously votes to allow this change, the units would be 50 units instead of 22. That's 28 housing lots that is being bestowed on a developer. And 10 years ago, those units would cost about a developer would pay $25,000 for that, for each one of those. So we're talking about bare minimum value of the gift that's being presented of well over $700,000. I think that I know that the select board can't, or planning board can't ask a developer for quid pro quo for funds, but I think that the town, as it votes on this, should request that the developer make a substantial contribution close to that gift amount, that they can put half of that into into the town's APR program so that they can preserve other farmland. I know the person currently farming the land would appreciate that. And maybe half of it could go to an affordable housing fund that the town also has, but it just seems like we ought to be asking for something. They're getting quite a bit.
Thank you for your comments. I know we can't discuss what was just brought before us, but wasn't that question going to be on this?
That is on the town meeting warrant.
What question is it?
It's the
To
last.
rezone that land. to
Oh,
a senior
okay,
housing.
that's on, okay, we didn't talk about it, it's on the plan, okay, thank you. Okay, my fault for not paying attention. All right, item 5.1, DPW Building Committee Designer Recommendation. Anybody here for that?
The,
Well, would you fill in then, please?
DPW Building Committee met last week. We received 3 proposals for designers for the proposed DPW facility. One withdrew at the last minute not because of anything to do with us, but they had put out a proposal, come to find out 2 years ago, that they thought was dead. And they got a call literally the day before saying that the town had approved the money and you are the designer, and the company says, we can't handle this one, and by the chance, if we got Hadley, we couldn't do them both, because they weren't a big company, so they withdrew. We thought they were withdrawing because of some other reason. They says, no, we're withdrawing because we are gonna be busy. So we were left with Colliers, I think that was the name, and HK, no,
Weston.
Weston and Sampson.
It
And
was-
HK.
HKA. Anyways, HKA was our choice. We have interviewed two firms. HK was our choice, so we're requesting that the select board approve the DPW's committee choice of HKA for the designer for the schematic design for the DPW.
And the funds to pay for that.
Is part of that 225,000 we approved the last town meeting, I think.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Jane, second by Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
You?
thanks, Tim.
And we're gonna meet, we will be just and for update, we'll be scheduling hopefully our first meeting with HKA next week. The letter is going out to HKA if it hasn't already, requesting a proposal from them. And they know the limits, so I couldn't imagine that they're not gonna put their letter in according to the limit, because that was all part of the designer request. So we're expecting that to be, and with any luck, we should be on the Maytown meeting requesting the funds.
Okay,
We will find out.
So,
thank you. Okay, item 5.2 is being withdrawn from the agenda. Move on to 6, select board members liaison report. Anybody have anything?
No.
No. Announcements. Anybody have anything? I know that the select board chair is supposed to talk about people who passed away. I'm ill prepared for this, but I know that in the paper in the past couple of days, and 2 Hadley residents who have passed away, Willie Danlico and Michael Washkevitz. Michael, I know, was a lifetime resident of Hadley. Willie was been here quite a long time. And we send our condolences to both of those families. And then we have election on
Mhm.
Tuesday.
Here.
And Jane, would you like to talk about your wine tasting thing, or is that not appropriate for this evening?
The senior center's friends are having a wine tasting this Friday from 6 to 8. And in advance of the wine tasting, we have a nice table of collected donated items that we're having a raffle on, and you don't have to be present, so stop by the senior center and buy your raffle tickets.
And then I just wanted to say what the polls are open from. Is it 8 to 8?
Give me 1 second, I'll have that for you.
While she's checking it up, or checking on that, I can, public forum for town meeting is next Wednesday at 7, correct? In conjunction with the select board meeting, so,
Which is at 6.
correct. And that's Zoom and in person, right? So,
Yeah. Thank you.
From 7 AM to 8 PM.
day.
Yes, it is. Okay, anybody have anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Aye.
Motion to adjourn by Jane, seconded by Amy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Have a good night.